G'day fans and welcome back to another exciting episode of DNA Reviews. It's our penultimate episode, Mr. Aaron. Here we are, one episode to go, this one and one more, and we're Danskis for this particular show. What do you reckon?
We're heading to the finish line now. I tell you, for anyone who's watched the show, we had sound issues and I'm wearing the earbuds and I can hear myself breathing. So it always feels like Darth Vader's in the audience now with the earbuds in.
So you're going to sit there and go, oh, yes, Dags, we must talk about Ahsoka. Absolutely fantastic. Well, there's a lot to cover off in this penultimate episode. So, as always, we're just going to jump straight into it. It is called Dreams and Madness. Oh, what a funky title that is, Mr. Aaron. And of course, there will be spoilers for those who didn't watch the episode last week. If you didn't, you'd be going nuts, especially it was the penultimate one, second last one before we got to the end of the entire series. It's very exciting stuff. What do you reckon, Mr. Aaron?
Madness, welcome to the House of Fun. It was a really good episode. I enjoyed this again. I guess we'll go through it and explain some of its ups and downs. But yeah, so far I'm really looking forward to the finale after seeing this one. What did you think?
Oh, mate, it was very exciting. It was interesting because now two things. One, last week, early on in the show, we talked about the episode Far, Far Away, and you made this entire comment about Shrek's homeworld and all sort of bizarre. And I was not listening to you at all. When I played it back and watched it on replay, I go, oh, that's actually very funny. Yeah, but idiot me missed the joke because I was too busy doing something else. And with this episode, funnily enough, there was a lot of reviews that I read, and they didn't like it. A lot of fans were just said, no, it did not float their boat at all. And I was really surprised to hear that, actually, because like you, I was actually quite invested in it. But we'll probably cover those details off as we go further along. So kick things off now. When you log into Disney Plus, you see the picture of Mon Mothma, and they said in the description, Hera is going to go to the council and the Senate, and whatever. And I thought, is the whole episode going to be about her? And we're not going to see what happens at the Geffer, which is what I call the galaxy even further away. But it turns out we actually had both sets of sequences, and we kick it off with a bit of Coruscant. I love Coruscant. I could look at bloody shots of this place forever. Which is particularly cool. For those who didn't pick up on it, that's the Senate Galactic Senate logo in the middle there, which is particularly groovy. And of course, we kick things off in the trial. And I swear, and I don't know if anybody else picked up on this, but some of the people in the crowd looked like international rescue characters from the Thunderbirds. Did you think that at all?
I didn't pick that one up. Whenever we go to Coruscant, I always think you're in a society where everyone can fly. Why do they have roads going through the middle of buildings and things like that?
Oh, don't think about things like that. Just look at the fantastic Thunderbirds costumes. I mean, especially the one on the bottom left. They want this down here, and I go, what the hell are they wearing? It's like they're ready to almost go 5, 4.
FAB, Dags.
Hey?
FAB, Dags.
FAB all the way. Absolutely fantastic. Anyway, it's the Hera trial. I like the fact she's got new clothes now, and she's got a new jacket, and she's missing the goggles. Notice she's wearing gloves. They do that to save money on the makeup department because clearly they had to make up all these other characters.
Something
and
I
I
have
thought it was
to
actually kind of groovy. So she's been put on trial, or at least a bit of a Senate hearing about what hurt she got up to. And as it turned out, her argument, they're like, no one's buying it. And of course, it's her versus Ziono, right? And she's a bit antagonistic towards him. And that's Ziono way over there. And I'm going to see another shot of him in a second. And the thing is that she's putting through the argument as to what's going on, what happened at that Certos, I think the place that the planet is. And I thought, surely the other X-Wing pilots would stick their hands up and go, yes, we were there too. We saw the hyperspace ring of that'll to rule them all, the one hyperspace ring to rule them all. You come up with that TMTU. And you would have thought, okay, they're all going to say, yeah, they all flew off into Nana land to go and pick up Thrawn. You reckon that would have saved a bacon, but clearly not.
I've said before, this series is really derivative of other fantasy shows, and it reminds me of Harry Potter, how at the end of every movie they're saying Voldemort's back, and the audience is screaming, believe them, and none of the people in charge do. And it really wouldn't surprise me if the last thing this scene is they all get back after some huge fight and land in the middle of the Senate hearing, and like the last dying words of someone is Thrawn's back, and that's how the series ends or something like that. We'll see.
Yeah, it could be. DJ, clearly not a happy camper. Didn't like the sets, didn't like the show, doesn't like this, doesn't like that. Oh, doesn't like the scene. Oh, not a happy camper. So I was like, okay, so the episode, that was obviously one of your fast forward moments, DJ, where you had to get on the iPhone or do the dishes or something, wait for it to play out. It wasn't the greatest thing in the universe, to be fair, and it could have been done differently, to be fair, but it is what it is, and we'll just stick with what we've got. One thing that we did get confirmed, and I brought this up a long time ago, we finally confirmed it, right? That this series is taking place after season 3 of The Mandalorian, and Moff Gideon is presumably dead. Finally, because remember, we could never work out where it fit into the scheme of things, not because of what happened with Moff Gideon, but with the whole thing with the Shadow Council, that all the Imperials getting together in those holograms and Moff saying, well, where's Thrawn? What's going on there? So at least it's now confirmed. And I'd like the idea that, yeah, okay, we'll work on the assumption that Moff Gideon has carked it, but maybe he hasn't. Even in later on, they talk about the Emperor may have died or may not have. But at least I thought it was good that they mentioned it, because remember I mentioned, it's bad English. Remember, I said multiple times, they've always talked about Thrawn being the bad guy. No one's discussed Moff Gideon, right? He was we saw it on screen. He was a major threat. But if he's been killed off, that's probably why they're not bringing it up. So I thought at the very least, that was one thing I was very, very happy with. So there you go.
So what do they tell the families of the X-Wings pilots that died? It was just a space accident or something?
Ooh, that's an interesting one, because you're right. Hera took these dudes on an illegal mission, which later on becomes, I will make it legal. And she gets the pilots killed. I mean, that poor old Rhodian pilot. I mean, there's tears for him or her. I think it was her. And you do have to wonder and go, well, okay, what happens there? And I don't know. That's probably a whole other discussion. But as we discuss by the end of this mission is considered legalized through Leia and whatever. So, yes, very, very cool. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So the thing was, Hera's on her own. You would have thought that the testimony of the other guys would have supported what she had to say. Now, clearly, Ziono, he's the only one, he's the antagonistic one. He's really belting it down. And, of course, as we've sort of discussed, that Ziono is sort of supporting the Imperial Remnant, the Imperial Empire, the Imperial whatever, and that's his agenda. So he's trying to discount her to make that threat go away. So if you didn't know that, you wouldn't put 2 and 2 together. You go, why is he being such a bastard to her? But anyway, sorry, dude.
Do you think he's a real Imperial, or do you think he's just a disbeliever?
I think it's been covered off, and I think Tracy, who's watching at the moment, said that it was mentioned somewhere that because he was a supporter of them, and I can't remember where. I don't know if it's covered off in a comic or whatever. Remember, in Resistance, his son appears in that. And I don't know if Ziono at that point was supporting the First Order, which was sort of like the big bad guy at the time. I'm not entirely sure. I can't remember. Michael has said it's a typical politician, gets in power and sticks his head in the sand. Yeah, that's a whole other point we're going to bring up in a second. But there's a reason why they do that. So, and you are right, DJ. X-Wings with R2 units, they do record everything. So clearly they saw it all. They would have seen all the evidence, and they've just said, no, we're just not going to go with it. So either that or Ziono holds a little bit of authority and he's just scaring all the other senators quiet. I mean, clearly they're not going to pay all the other actors to speak. They're just going to sit there and nod their heads, and that's probably what happened. So,
because paying like 10 extras is the same as bringing one Hayden Christensen back for a scene kind of thing.
Yeah, it's a bit like that, isn't it? And unfortunately, it's a bit of a dead giveaway. All the others just nod their heads. You go, in a real life environment, they'd probably all be saying something, but it doesn't exactly work that way. So anyway, not to worry. Now, just going back to roughly what Michael said, I mean, like Hera's frustrated about the New Republic's lack of action, right? Yeah, you got to look at it from their point of view, right? Now, as the audience, and we've discussed this before, we see everything that's going on. But from their point of view, they don't want to cause an undue alarm with the population, with the populace, the people, and say, yep, there's a potential threat of yet another invader and another imperial threat, whatever else. They just want to just pretend it's not true. As you said here, Michael, it's like sticking your head in the sand. And ironically, that echoes the real world all the time. And even like, if you want to look at it today, there are certain things going on in our real world, and there are people saying, no, it's all good. Don't worry about it. Even though it's clearly for everyone to see, there are things happening that may have a really, really bad outcome. And I think because the New Republic is just like, they're trying to get established, they don't want to say to people, yeah, we've had 19 years of the Imperial Empire. No, was it more than that? It was like 25 or something. They could be back next week. They don't want to do that. So I get it from that perspective. We as the audience see everything, so it's different for us. Now, this one I thought was fascinating. I don't know if you picked up on this. I did, right? And it's to do with Mon Mothma. As soon as Ziono says he wants Hera stripped of her general rank and whatever else, do you realize it's history repeating itself? If you remember Rogue One specifically, right? she couldn't get the alliance together in harmony. They're all like disjointed. They've all got their own opinions. They're all afraid. They're all this, they're all that. Now that she's in charge of the entire New Republic, it's happening all over again. And I thought, isn't that interesting? So even where you've got no power, as in like you're in the alliance, you're struggling to keep it all together. Now that you've got all the power, you still have the same issues. Did you pick up on that at all?
Yeah, I did. It was one of those things where you feel frustrated for her because I think she's got a lot more idea of what's going on than everyone else. And I think she would believe Hera and obviously be on the pro side to agreeing with what she's saying. But she also has to tread that line where she can't be too radical because she'll be kicked out of the Senate. So it is one of those things where it's almost bound by how many people believe different things to how you act, because there is no unity at the moment, especially after you've had the Empire and everyone comes back. And you can imagine after there's a big vacuum in power, it's not everyone's going to come back and go, great, the rebellion won and it's going to be a new republic. Everyone is going to have their own agendas and be pushing their own thing. It's just like in the real world. And I think she is quite a good politician and she navigates that quite well.
See, what I like about it is like if from the audience's perspective, the Empire's dead, the New Republic come in, you'd think from day one it is just perfect unity and harmony, and it's all roses and flowers. The world is awesome, right? But it's not. There are problems everywhere, and it's not just in this series. We saw it. I think it was in one of the Mandalorian episodes. There's stuff going on, like even in the Jeez, I'm trying to think now what the other one was. Some of the other series, I've just gone a bit blank as to what's happening because they drip feed bits of information as to how hard the New Republic's got. Andor was the other one, where whatever, and just how they're trying to put it all together and make the world work. And at the moment, it's really, really difficult. It's not as simple as you just come in as a new government and you just roll in and you go, yep, it's all good from day one. And they're struggling. They've got problems. And it's mentioned here that they're really trying to convince you that the New Republic are idiots. See, I disagree with that statement because remember, as the audience, we know everything that's going on. But from their perspective, they've taken over the entire galaxy and overnight they've got to try and control it all. And that's actually really, really difficult. And there's going to be a lot of people who were subjugated through the Empire era. They get into government and all of a sudden they're all clashing heads with each other, whether it be through they believe that we need to go in this direction or it's just egos kicking in. And it would happen in the real world. It's never a simple thing of just taking over, and from day one, it's just perfect unity. So, I know I said that. Sorry, I know I said all that badly. I know what I'm trying to say, and it's not coming out correctly. So, apologies.
Yeah. Well, we saw in that episode of the Mandalorian Series 3, which showed you what was happening on Coruscant. I think when the Empire is in charge and it's, a dictatorship, if you have a shitty job, you've got someone to blame because it's the evil Empire. But when the Empire are gone and you realize you're still in that job because that's the only job that there is, you have to be doing it because you want to, then it's really hard for people who run a free republic to keep everyone happy. Because, they don't have to do that anymore because a stormtrooper isn't going to shoot them. So it is one of those things. They're never going to go into it in Disney because it's boring to look at that side of stuff, but you can touch on it, and I think that's really interesting.
True. And also the New Republic here, they are bound by the books that have already been written, whether it be Bloodlines, Aftermath. They can't just do something completely different because those books are canon and they kind of have to follow that. And the basic premise is that the New Republic stays pretty much ignorant to everything that's going on around them, right up till The Force Awakens when they get destroyed by the by Starkiller Base. So they have to toe that line. So, but anyway, I thought it was interesting. It's kind of cool to see the dynamics between all the senators and at least two senators and all the infighting that's going on. And then, of course, 3PO turns up. And I like this. He doesn't need to show any identification, which is obviously a cute throwback to A New Hope when he enters Mos Eisley. And for those who may not have realized, like, he just interrupts this massive event. How can he do that? And, of course, C-3PO would be considered, along with R2-D2 and Luke Skywalker, like the superheroes of the entire New Republic. They got the keys to the galaxy because they helped save everything by getting the Death Star plans and destroying the Death Star and whatever. So 3PO, of all the droids, he would be the one that even other droids would look up to. So I can understand why he can do this and get away with it, even though at face value you're going, dude, you're a bit rude. And for those who didn't know, it's actually Anthony Daniels in the suit. So it's not just the voice, but he's actually in the suit as well, which I thought was really interesting. And of course, he's appearing on behalf of Leia. Unfortunately, we don't get to see Leia. Clearly, we know why, but which is unfortunate because if that was possible, that'd be awesome. But yeah, what do you reckon?
I did think they were going to show Leia. I did think he was going to hold his hand out and it would be a hologram, which would be kind of a way to get away with it, I guess. But I'm not surprised either they didn't. I was surprised when he turned up. I didn't know he was going to have a cameo. Didn't know he was in the suit. So there you go. But it was just a nice little nod. It's one of those cameos that isn't as gratuitous as some of them. It does make sense. You know, we've said in a couple of episodes, where's Leia? What's happening with her?
Yeah.
And we know she is in the background doing stuff now, and we have a C-3PO cameo. I'm sure for those who think C-3PO is the best character in Star Wars, that was an awesome episode. For me, sometimes he's a bit annoying, but it's just nice to see Anthony Daniels back, you know?
Yeah. I only found out because he put it on his Twitter account and or whatever his social media account. He said, "Yeah, it's good to be." Because as soon as you heard his voice, I go, "Oh, that's awesome! They got him back for his voice." I didn't realize he was in the suit until I read the thing. So, Mary, good to see Mary joining the show. Yeah, good on Anthony. So, yeah, he's still the one actor's played the same character through every iteration of Star Wars you can imagine. Absolutely fantastic. So, yeah, it was good because I thought, oh, that's actually just really out of left field. Very, very groovy. I like this one. Tracy said she was having dinner. Oh, come on, Tracy, get your priorities right. Us, dinner. Dinner can wait. She believes that Ziono is actually weak and sits on the fence. My previous response was something else. Oh, okay, fair enough. I haven't really read into it, Ziono, where he is in the scheme of things, but he certainly sounds pro-imperial by some stretch. And who knows, maybe when the Empire was in power, he was getting some kickbacks from them and he wants them to return. He knows something that other people don't. Anyway, we don't know.
This is just an aside for anyone who likes the interesting ideas of my wife. What she got out of this scene was, Hera, like the towels on her head, she wears like little shorts. I wonder if on her home planet there are shops that just sell like hot pants that go on the heads of the tails of Twi'leks. I was like, gee, I don't know. Maybe there are.
And the reason why they have those, which is you're talking about that part right there, is so, and this is obvious, so they can join the Leku, which is the things at the back,
tails
onto the actress's head without having to worry about hiding the makeup the joints. That's the reason why they did it. So it's a classic makeup effect. And in fact, 2 episodes ago when Ahsoka drowned and they pull her out of the thing and they take that off, you actually see the joint where her head is, the actress's head, where the fake head is. And they had to really obviously mesh that in beautifully so it looked like it's all organic. Normally you don't bother. You just put something over the top. Bang, you covered it. Makeup department, beauty, save money. Everybody's she's wearing gloves, don't have to worry about the hands. Puts the thing on the head, done. It's all budgets. So yes,
that's a good question from DJ. Are Hera and Ahsoka the same race?
No. So Hera is a Twi'lek and Ahsoka is a Tograta. So yes, they may have similar characteristics with the leg. So the antenna at the back, what do you want to call them? They're called Leku for Hera. But I think it's tendrils or something for Ahsoka, I think. But they're definitely from 2 different places. No, they look similar. So yeah.
Okay.
The nerd in me can answer any question you want answered. So there you go. So Tograta. But don't ask me what planet she comes from. That I don't know. So whereas Twi'leks, of course, come from Ryloth. Nerd. Love it. Very, very good. We're still stuck in this hearing. So and Mothma wants to know the likelihood of Thrawn's return. So she is clearly aware of what potentially could happen and is a bit antsy about it all. So it's good that, so this comes back to what you said earlier. She's half and half on the fence. Well, Hera did break the rules, but her justification seemed to be there. And of course, she knows that Leia didn't authorize the mission. I like that. I thought that was a good moment. We said, no, you're pulling a shifty here. You're pulling a fast one, and she didn't. That was good. I really liked it.
The whole thing with the hearing, though, what you were saying, you don't think they look stupid. I was yelling at the screen at one point, are you stupid? Are you not believing her? Because a couple of episodes, there were like Sith fighting on the docks. The hyperspace giant engines were stolen. They saw the hyperspace ring and it killed people as it blasted off. And you know that Thrawn disappeared and they know the whole story behind that. Are they really putting their head in the sand that badly? You know?
It would seem so. Yes. I don't know.
And the guy yelled for the Empire as he turned around and tried to shoot them. You know, I mean, that's kind of signaling it a little bit, isn't it?
Disillusioned youngsters, don't worry about it. It's all good. So there you go. And DJ's happy that I answered his question. So there you go. There are all these people going, oh my God, I've got to write this down for future reference. Very, very cool. Yes, exactly right. Yes, ultimately they are idiots, and but it does echo real world scenarios both today and in the past. Very good. There was a question here. So everybody's vanished for a bit. Well, we vanished, did we? And we did our own transportation sort of moment. Where is Luke? Yeah, no. At the moment he's not worthy of bringing back into the show. You would think that if anybody's going to be able to look into the threat of the Empire, it would be him. But Luke, even by the stories that we know, has distanced himself from everything. He's vanished. We know he's on the planet building his Jedi temple thing. We saw that in freaking hell. What was that? Mandalorian. One of those shows. They keep freaking mixing all these shows up.
Mandalorian.
Was it Mandalorian? Yeah, that's right. So he's there, and clearly, if somebody went to say, "Dude, we got this problem," he said, "I don't care. My ants are building my temple. Piss off and leave me alone." So I lost Grogu. I'm not happy.
That bit might have been in the book of Boba Fett as well. He's turned up all over the place on that planet, hasn't he?
Yeah, I know. Very good. I don't know. Yeah, that's the problem with these shows. They keep cross-pollinating with other shows. Anyway, let's move on. So that was the hearing. Make of that what you will, right? Very, very cool. Now we finally get back into the other side of the universe. We're tripping the light fantastic once again. Bring out your wacky tobackies and yeah, man, there was fun space whales. Now no one mentions them as purgles at all in the entire episode. Everybody now calls them space whales. What's the deal with that?
Well, I said that. I thought the first couple of episodes, purgles. Halfway through, space whales, and they've gone to. I'm wondering if they set it up as purgles because it's the link to Rebels, but no one's watched Rebels. So for the audience that is sort of the larger audience, they're calling them space whales because it's more reliable. And then, of course, when they mine them and everything which is coming up, then it sort of goes into the sympathy you have for whales that we have as well, and whaling. So I guess it's an empathy thing, I think, that they're trying to do with the audience.
Even Thrawn calls them space whales. What the hell's the deal with that? Just backtracking a bit. I like this one from DJ. Sorry, Luke is $1 million a minute. He gets deployed sparingly.
I see your paycheck is as large as mine.
I've got a couple of comments coming up later on. DJ is going to absolutely love them because they relate back to something he said a couple of episodes ago, which is absolutely fantastic. All right, very, very cool. I like that. Tripping light fantastic. Where's that from? Got to remember that for future references. Remember, space whales are the go. Make of that what you will. I don't know. For whatever reason, they've just dropped the name Purgle. Anyway, we're on the ship, right? We're still on the way. Remember what I said last week? What if it's a 7-year trip to get there, whatever? So Anakin made recordings for Ahsoka for her training as a soldier. Now, I'm working on the assumption that she hasn't seen these in years because until her trip to the world between worlds, she's probably these things were filed away, never to be looked at ever again. But now that she's suddenly Anakin's in the good books, that she's decided to have a look at them again. And I did like the nice name drop of Ventress. So he mentions Count Dooku, somebody else, and Asajj Ventress. And I thought, I think it was Darth Maul. And I thought, oh, that is very, very cool. It's just a little snippet there because Ventress is dead by this point. Spoiler alert. So I thought that was kind of groovy, this sequence.
No, nobody's ever dead. We haven't seen it in live action, so you never know. So, yeah, I did think it was a good sequence. Again, it was another one of those. I thought they've done the cameo, and then he comes back for a little bit more, which, again, isn't gratuitous. You can imagine he would have done something like that. So, okay, we have it while they're traveling in the space whales. I guess she's training, so good.
I agree with Michael. Purgles is too hard for kids to remember, right? Especially with the double R and the spelling. Just call them space whales. It'd be curious to see if they do actually produce these. It's a marketing, merchandising thing.
Do you know what? Now we know why snow speeders have harpoons. It's for space whaling.
Although they'd be flying backwards, but anyway, let's not worry about that, shall we? Very good. Yes, very cool. There's a comment about DJ. We're going to get to you in a sec, right? So I do like the fact that Anakin says this is his last recording too before things went in his own direction. You need to be able to make it on your own. And of course, when he made that recording, he wouldn't have thought, oh, this is what's going to happen in the next couple of years. And of course, yeah, she did actually have to make it on her own. So talk about predicting the future. I thought that was actually really, really interesting. So
yeah, well, he was the chosen one.
Eh?
He was the chosen one.
He was indeed. Definitely so. And I thought this was funny, right? So finally, Ahsoka concedes that Anakin was a good master. And as I said a moment ago, I bet she didn't feel that way until the World Between Worlds experience, right? I think up to that point, she just thought he was a good guy, You went off the rails. I don't want it to know anything about him at all. Now all of a sudden you said
Well,
an about face.
I presume it would be like when we have a bad breakup with someone, you do not go and look at photos with them anymore or old videos and stuff. You never watch it again. And I kind of think that she, like you were saying, probably haven't looked at this stuff for years.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's just been filed away. She had her experiences in the world between worlds. Suddenly thought, oh, maybe I'll watch those things again. Oh, hang on, it's actually quite good. Oh, hang on, now I really like the guy. It's like, yeah, good on you. do the 180, Ahsoka. Absolutely love it. Now, what comment? Now we did cover this off last week or the week before, right? DJ said about how Huyang and Ahsoka have the best chemistry, right? And we mentioned that Huyang as a droid is absolutely fantastic. I love this one. Now, DJ, I want your response on this one, right? What are the chances? Because they're still on the way to the Geffer, the galaxy even further away. What are the chances they end up in exactly the same location as Sabine, the bad guys, and everyone else? What do you think the chances are of that? And because Huyang brings it up, we might be in a completely different planet, different location, different this, different that. What are the chances? What do you reckon, dude?
Using all the hints that are in the closing titles, I know all of them divert on the very same planet. So I thought that would have been really funny if the space whales had just come out of hyperspace and they go, there's nothing here. There's nothing for sectors around. And then they change direction and go back into hyperspace or something like that. That would be pretty funny. But I guess they're not going to do a gag like that when there's just limited time. But you're absolutely right. They are really, I kind of get Ahsoka is so close with the Force. When she had that connection with the Purgle, she kind of knew that's where they were going to go.
Yeah, but she's not like she's steering one. It's not like she can just pull the reins and they just go, oh, hang on, we need to go. Guys, banging on the roof of the thing, or the Purgle's mouth, or the space whale's mouth, gets out of the ship, goes bang, bang, bang. You need to hook a left over there. I need to go over there.
Well, put it this way: if they turned up somewhere different and there was no action happening at all, and that was the end of it, it'd be a really bad series.
Well, I like Huyang. He says, you realize our star maps don't work here. We're in a completely foreign location. Like, we're completely juicy fruited if we turn up somewhere else. What are the chances that's going to happen? That could be a whole new series all by itself. Okay, made sense to me. Spoke to the whale, said, yeah, follow that red. No, that's not true. As you once said, I think last week, DJ, it's all about the narrative. The narrative determines that, yes, it will work, and it does work. And I absolutely love it. And of course, it ends up being the case. Anyway, so it was a visually good moment. All the Purgles come out of hyperspace, which was very groovy. And there we go, bang, bang, bang. Now, of course, they end up in a minefield, right? So, which I thought was really cool. I mean, the whole thing of like you're inside the Purgle, things are going on outside. We don't know what's really happening. Now, do you think there's 2 points to this statement, that none of the Purgles were killed, so they didn't upset the audience, i.e. the kids, right? Because I can't imagine them like the whales blowing apart in space. That would have been pretty messy. And because the Purgles then go into hyperspace, they take off again. Will they come back later on, take two, possibly to pick up our heroes? What do you think?
Well, again, I was thinking that because I'm pretty sure in the previous episode, Thrawn says something like, kill any Purgles that turn up with extreme prejudice, which for me is blast the crap out of them. And okay, there was a minefield, but it was pretty useless. You didn't see any of the space whales actually getting any damage.
No.
And then they, Junior Birdman back out of there. So it was just this Greyhound taxi service where they drop off the people who need to be there and then they disappear again, which, okay, probably is audience friendly, as you're saying. You're not getting charcoal blubber all over the front of the windscreens of X-Wings kind of thing. But I actually think it would have been good to kill one, just so you go, those horrible Imperials killing, innocent animal kind of thing. I think that's good for kids. Kids like it when they get traumatized. Everyone remembers the horse dying in Neverending Story. Everyone would have remembered the space whale getting exploded in their head,
So DJ said that was cool. I wish they'd blown up some whales, given a bit of danger. And I thought at the time, oh, where's this going? Because they're clearly getting impacted. And I mean, a part of you thinking, oh, that's going to be rough if they show that on screen, and it's like a really bad death, not like they just like have a heart attack. But they didn't do it, right? And they've obviously said, they're impervious to the explosions, and they just bolt off out of there. But it does, you are right, increase the danger, increase the trauma. And is that a good thing or a bad thing? And I reckon someone somewhere along the Disney Lucasfilm line said, nope, not happening. And that's going to relate to something later on too, which I predicted 100% correct, which is interesting. But anyway,
Do you know what would have
yes.
been really funny?
What?
On the planet, if a whale and a bowl of petunias just like
And I agree with you, Christy. Animal activists would freak out. They would too. And you are right. It would be traumatic for children. But by the same token, it is a dangerous situation. And I obviously didn't want to see it, but I can understand it if they put it in. And it's a hard one. It really is. But I guess this sort of show, it's not that way it's meant to be. I mean, I think if it's a George Lucas thing, he would have said, yep, lose one. Yeah, interesting. Now, we didn't get an answer to the question. What are the chances they should end up in exactly where they need to be? And the answer is 100%. Absolutely. There's the one hyperspace ring to rule them all, eh?
Yes.
Love it.
So they turn up there, and there's a handy debris field for them to turn down and hide in. Wasn't that handy?
Yeah, even Huyang said, oh, what are the chances we've actually ended up where we needed to be? Oh, my God, seriously. So, yes, and you are right. It's purely from a narrative. Let's get the thing over and done with point of view. I mean, the Purgles could have ended up anywhere, but no, they ended up exactly where we needed them to be. Yes, 100% with the chance of mines. Exactly right. Michael said the whales didn't take any damage or that. None. No. And, of course, I didn't even think they could just bolt off out of there again. But I think I'm taking a guess and predicting that there's a reason why they did that. But yeah,
they
anyway,
didn't have time they didn't have time to calculate their hyperspace jump, so they're going to bounce too close to a supernova.
We'll fly right into a star or a supernova. Yeah, exactly. Because what's that flashing? We're losing the reflector shield. Yes, exactly right. They just went from they go. Wouldn't that be funny? And they show them all splattered in the windscreen of a planet, and there was a boom, 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 boom. Yeah, that's a deleted scene. You put that. Someone can do a meme on that one. They've just plowed themselves headfirst into a planet. There's just blood and guts everywhere. At ludicrous speed, no less. Too. Oh, yes, that's going to leave a mark.
The whales have gone to plaid.
Oh my God, absolutely love that. There we go. You can't show that in a show. The kids are watching. Yeah, that's right. Maybe here, Return of the Jedi had a Gamorreans getting bitten in half. Well, it's true, but they're right. They're horrible aliens. No one cares about them. Yes, and that's a good point, though. You did see Gamorreans getting eaten in Return of the Jedi, at least one of them. So anyway, now I've rearranged all the shots as I always do, so everybody knows what's going on. Okay, very, very cool. We got what is exactly like the the asteroid field chase in The Empire Strikes Back. It's identical. The ship flies into the asteroids. The TIE fighters, in this case, are chasing, which is the other fighters, right? And it's almost like they're crazy to follow us, wouldn't they? And even Huyang uses the exact same line that Leia used: if we're going to be pulverized if we stay out here much longer. Oh, I tell you what, I reckon they took a shortcut in the writer's room for this one.
Well, they've changed it up because in the asteroid field, they ended up inside a giant creature. But they started by coming out of a giant creature and then going into the asteroid field. So it's like bookends, one end for the other. But I do see exactly what you were thinking. And I was actually imagining John Williams' theme into it when they were rolling over the asteroids and stuff. So it is very Star Wars. It was a very Star Wars scene.
All I was waiting for Ahsoka to say, I'm getting in closer to one of the big ones, because I think they sit on a rib or something like that. And could have fitted in beautifully. And I reckon it's homage as opposed to like homage / rip-off, i.e. we've just cut corners. We need a chase scene to just take it out of this movie, just replace the ships, replace the asteroids with bones, and we're good to go. Love it. Very, very cool. All right, so that's where we're going to leave that stuff, right? I know we're sort of jumping around everywhere. We're going to end up on the planet Peridea. Good old Thrawn's parked his ship there still, which is kind of cool. Absolutely love it. How is this for a bit of juxtaposition? What a weird looking shot this is. Down the bottom is the temple, and at the top is the ship. And it's like, I don't know about you, but I found it really awkward to look at. And of course, there's the bridge that joins the two of them together. They are completely different worlds. The technology up here and the witchcraft thing down there. From an image, I thought that was really fascinating. And it's just like, that's enough to do your head in, because you go, what am I looking at? So did you pick up on that at all?
Well, it's the modern and the gothic, and it jars. And I think that's what they're playing off against each other. How for Thrawn to come back and the Empire to come back, you've got this mix of technology which is the Empire, and mythology, which is the Sith and Darth Vader in the original trilogy, but they've replaced it with the witches in this one. So I do think I don't know, maybe I see too much into stuff, but I thought this whole series has been amazing from a derivative level on what they're echoing. Is it deliberate or not? Like, it looked to me like the Star Destroyer is sitting at the peak of Helm's Deep from Lord of the Rings there, which I've mentioned before. I really like it because it's really sci-fi, Star Wars, not just sci-fi, but sci-fi fantasy as well, which I think sometimes gets missed out of Star Wars a bit. So I've been enjoying it, and I know you said some people haven't liked this episode just because of the imagery and I guess the whole mythology they're trying to work into it. I've been probably a little bit more lenient on the second half of this series than the first. I'm liking it. It reminds me more of if Jim Henson was involved, and it's got like other imagery from even movies like Kroll and things like that from the 80s that I grew up with. So I'm liking the nostalgia warmth that comes from seeing like Imperial hardware up against like magic and stuff like that.
Yeah, you're right. It is different, and it's actually, the show has improved. Sorry, since the beginning, when it first kicked off. A couple of things a few comments here. Hang on. There was regarding being in the asteroid field. I have to get close to one of the big bits. I thought that was quite funny. Yeah, very very cool. Oh yeah, okay. How many times they come out of a side of a planet with the atmosphere and don't take into account the planet movement? It's okay, Christy. Star Wars, you can not worry about that. It's like when they land on planets and no one ever checks for atmosphere. So listen, they did that in Mandalorian, which was kind of clever. And where was he? Michael, theory, what's in the pods? We discussed this last week. We think that I think anyway, that they're stasis tubes, and what's in them, we don't know. So,
and I'm going for giant Omo Tide pods that keep General Thrawn's whiter than white Admiral uniform so shiny and nice.
You've been wanting to say that for ages. I like that. Suspended witches. Wouldn't they be hanging from a coat hanger or something if that was the case? Don't know. And I agree. Sorry, you are right. Visually, it's been excellent. But all Star Wars shows have been excellent visually. So can't knock that from my point of view. All right. So Thrawn wants to know more about Ahsoka, right? Now, we asked for that last week. He gets from the Inquisitorial database. I reckon that was kind of groovy. So he gets his iPad. And he starts checking out, and then he discovers that Ahsoka was actually the Padawan to Anakin Skywalker, which was kind of groovy. And I thought, the Inquisitorial database. I thought that is very very cool, and of course that harks back to Rebels as well. The Inquisitors, the Inkies, as we like to call them.
I wonder how out of date that is, though, because in the galaxy beyond the galaxy, like the Bluetooth doesn't reach, so it doesn't update every time they add anything to the database. So it's way out of date.
it's trying to link back to the database in the galaxy far, far away, and it's just got the little
spinning Imperial logo,
or the what do you call it, the egg timer that just keeps turning over, trying to connect. Dear. Oh, goodness. Love it.
They can while they're waiting for it to update, they can all go to the restaurant, which is in Britches, which is obviously where they dined there.
So, just as a gag, Thrawn gets it. He's trying to update, and he's just holding it in the air and trying to get a signal. I agree. The Wi-Fi is patchy, and he's just like, one bar.
It's like time to update 4,000 years.
I love it. Oh, absolutely. This is actually very, very funny. I've got a serious bit I've got to bring up now. Oh my God, I've just lost it. I've got a serious bit I've got to bring up. I didn't know where to put this in. This is a speculation thing, right? So if and when Thrawn gets back to the galaxy far, far away, remember currently he's in the Geffer, the galaxy even further away, will he end up in the unknown regions, or will it be him who kickstarts the creation of the First Order? Now, remember, this is a long time before Snoke and the rise of Palpatine and all that other stuff. Could he be the one who starts it off? What do you think? Because if he gets back to the galaxy far, far away, it's not like he's just going to roll up on Coruscant's doorstep and say, yep, here I am, I'm ready to party. He's like, they're going to go, no, he's just going to get arrested. So what are your thoughts?
I do think that this will be how the movie goes. I think the next series the next couple of series will lead into the movie, and it will be dovetailing the original movies with the Disney ones. And I do think you'll get Thrawn getting all of Gideon's research and, being able to manipulate and genetically put midi-chlorians into creatures to have force, and you might get like him contacting with the Emperor, I don't know, and you might get the start of the Snoke project, because am I wrong? I can't really remember. When we get Snoke into it, they don't know that he's evil. Like Leia thinks that he might be
you're
evil
right.
or something.
Yeah.
So he's got to come into it more on the Senate side of things and a rise to power through that over years. So
No,
I don't know. That's speculation. I'm
because
liking. So I like Thrawn as a villain. I think they're using him right, and he's instantly good because they've built up, and then he's a classic presence. I just hope they don't stuff it up with how they use him in the next couple of series.
DJ said Thrawn's going to Exegol, maybe because of Palpatine. I mean, someone has to start the First Order. We don't really know where that comes from, and I agree with you. The whole Snoke thing comes later on. Be funny if he's the one who turns up back in the galaxy far, far away, takes a left off to Albuquerque. There was a message earlier from Colin, which I missed. Goes to unknown regions, finds out where the Imperials of the leftovers from the Battle of Jedi and the Battle of Jakku and all that, where they're all hanging out. So, all right, this is what we're going to do, kids. We're going to start what it will become the First Order. He doesn't live to see it all, but he's the one. Someone has to physically kick it off, and it'd be funny if it was him. So that was my theory, and I thought, oh, maybe it's possible. So,
it'll be one of those things I was talking about to a customer where after he's gone or whatever, the last line of the movie will be, and what was Thrawn's first order? And it will be like to rebuild the Empire, and then they'll go, First Order. That's a catchy name, isn't it? And
we could use that. Oh, that's very clever, dude. That's very good. My First Order is look. Yep, this is someone write that down.
take a note.
I mean, when you think about it, the First Order was a pretty dumb name, but that's actually very, very good. And yes, and they said, and you right at the very end, what's well for my final order? Oh, then we use that name somewhere else. DJ said the witches are going to become the Sith disciples we see in Exegol. That's the Sith Eternal. Who knows? Maybe it's the descendants of those who are inside the stasis tubes. That I don't know. That's a very, very good point. I'm very curious to see where he does end up, though. Huh?
That scene is so conceptual. I didn't even know if they were real corporeal beings or force beings, and they were every Sith that he talked about that came before him. It's probably been answered in extended universe type stuff, but that whole movie didn't make a lot of sense at the end, I don't think.
Yeah. Anyway, that's a completely different thing. All right, so in this story, right? So they've lost Ahsoka. They don't know where she is. So he brings in the Dathomiri, the great mothers, and they are clearly subservient to him. They say, I can't remember what the exact line is, but your wish is our command sort of scenario. And I thought, well, that is like, why is it? And we sort of speculated a bit with this last week. What is it that he has that they are kowtowing to him? Because at the very least, you would think they would have the power between the three of them. And we're assuming there's just the three, that they could destroy Thrawn and his troops without a problem. Unless, as Michael mentioned earlier, in the stasis tubes, there are Night Sisters in there. And they're prepared to sort of like bow down to Thrawn because they need him to transport these stasis tubes back to the galaxy far, far away. But it was just interesting to see, instead of being on a par with him, they are definitely like, okay, you're above us. And I thought that was just an interesting sort of moment. Yeah, that's right. Thrawn, my lord. That's right. So, I thought that was really interesting.
So it could. I think it's all pointing to be it is an army or the Night Sisters order. Imagine if it was something different. Imagine if every one of them was a Genesis torpedo or something as powerful as that could reform every planet into an Imperial Sith planet or something like that. You never know.
Yeah, you don't. Right. Promised passage out of the galaxy. That's right. And maybe that's what they'll say. And of course, you do wonder then if they all get back to the galaxy far, far away, does that mean the Night Sisters say, all right, we're going our separate ways? So Thrawn, you bugger off where you're going. Where's the Dathomiri going this way? I don't know. It's interesting to sort of think about it. Very, very cool. I like this one. They could bring back a de-aged Richard E. Grant. His character was active at this point. Would be alive at least, be a lot younger. So, but we don't know anything about the history of the whole Exegol thing and how that all transpired. Maybe we never will. I thought this was a cool effect, right? They want to find Ahsoka. They get the balls out. I'll tell you what, those orb things that they carry around, they got all the power and they just do the triangulation thing. I thought that was kind of groovy. And before you know it, suddenly Ahsoka has been discovered, and that leads into what we saw earlier when they got attacked, which I thought was kind of cool.
Now,
I just like
I
the effect.
discussed with you on the weekend. I would have liked Thrawn, who was meant to be one of the most, the greatest minds in the military, not to have relied on the witches so much and actually gone, well, I knew after the minefield they were going to go into the debris field, and there's a trap in there because I knew that was going to happen. And they have this much of a percentage of surviving that trap. So we've also laid this trap for them as well. Because reading the old Thrawn books, I really remember he was able to, predict what everyone was going to do and everything that was going to happen. And I really hoped that he had hammered them all the way to the planet rather than it being a team effort, which it turned out to be.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, so we'll have to wait and see. So that's that side done. Right, now we get down to the fast forward. Bring out your phone and start. It's the boring bits, if you will. Thrawn himself isn't force sensitive. Any job is the face with him, he'd be toast. That's right. That was in the novels, actually. In the original Heir to the Empire novels, he had this Yosemite around his neck to negate force. What do you call it? Force stuff.
Wouldn't it be?
Him, which has not been canonized, by the way. So yeah.
Wouldn't it be cool? Wouldn't it be cool if he had one in his pocket, and that's why the Night Sisters couldn't touch him, kind of thing?
Well, you never know. I don't know, but I mean, they're not using the Force, though. They're just using witchcraft, which is a completely different power.
True. Yeah.
Very okay. This is a lot of reading here. Also, I think they're going to tie it all together into the sequel trilogy. I think Thrawn Witches will be at their own set of antagonists for Revolt using. Well, it's certainly possible. I mean, for all we know, they get back and there's a whole big battle, the whole war that all subsides, and then it all raises its ugly head again in the Force Awakens. Don't know, but it'd be nice to know if it could all be sort of joined together. There you go. And Christy doesn't like Thrawn at all. So in this, there you go. I think you may actually be in the minority in this one, Christy, but I guess there are some people who had their thoughts and views as to what he should look and sound like, and maybe it's working for some, and obviously in your case, not working for others. Anyway, be that as it may, we're going to leave that. We're going to head off now to out the fields of Peridea. Good old Ezra's got himself a convoy, and why is he at the front? Was he in charge all of a sudden of these guys? So I thought, oh yeah, there we go. Chilling away with Sabine, and I thought this was interesting, right? After all their catch-ups, he gets filled in with everything that's happening, which we know. Okay, yeah, the Empire's destroyed, New Republic's in charge, this is happening, but he still doesn't know why Sabine's there, how she found him. And of course, there's no mention at all as to what Thrawn is up to. So conceivably, if Thrawn buggers off now back to the galaxy far, far away, these guys are stuck here, and she hasn't said anything, and he's completely oblivious as to what's going on. So how weird is that?
How come the sisters can use that triangle device to find Ahsoka, but they can't use it to find Ezra?
It's a very good point. Yeah, maybe it only points downwards and not up. Well, I don't know.
Maybe there is something on the planet that blocks it all as well. We don't know because there's something of great power there. But it was one of the things I was thinking. It obviously was they didn't have a priority to find him, because I think they could have really easily if they put their mind to it.
Yeah, you do think so, yes, and I tend to agree with you. But I mean, by the same token, I think they want, as Thrawn says, they wanted Sabine out of the way, look after Ezra, send the bad guys up. That he just wanted to just waste their time, which I kind of get. But
also, what has decimated Thrawn's forces? Because we haven't really seen anything apart from, pseudo Tusken Raider type things that you'd think stormtroopers had no problems with as well.
It may have been when they arrived with Ezra, because Ezra was in a bit of a slicing and dicing. I don't know. I mean, it's been 10 years, so who knows? They just might have lost them through natural attrition. Just to cover off, Thrawn is nothing like the expanded universe version. I don't think anything's ever going to beat something like that. So, I mean, had Heir to the Empire come out 20 years afterwards, instead of being the first book in 1991, if it had come out in 2011, would it have had the same impact with all the other novels still being there? I don't think so. It's just the time that it came out. He was a very popular character. Everybody loved him. And, of course, everybody visualizes a literary character as their own way. How they look, how they sound, how they act. And translating that into live action will work for some, won't work for others. So you are right. There could be people who say, I love his voice, but I hate the way he looks. Some people might say, I hate the way he looks, but I like the way he presents himself. Others might say, I don't like any of it. Some people say, absolutely, it's perfect the way it should be. You can't always win. And, of course, you are writing for a TV show. There's going to be a lot of cut corners as well. So I think there has to be a little bit of give and take. But in terms of an interpretation of a literary character that's gone from literary to animation to live action, they've done a reasonably good job. They can always do things better, But at some point you go, you know what, this is the best that we're going to get with what we've got. And at least they kept the same voice actor from Rebels. And I thought, well, at the very least, that's something. So anyway.
I half agree with Christy because I do think the expanded universe version is way better, but I'm comparing him to other villains in the live Disney universe. And with the pantheon of villains we've had, Gideon and stuff like that, I think Thrawn is probably one of the best, or the best.
I certainly agree with you that he's a head and shoulders over Gideon. Gideon really was quite weak, and we always knew that, right? He was just the mustache twirling, I'm going to take over the universe kind of dude. He had no depth at all. But at least with Thrawn, for so far, it's only been like 3 episodes or 4 episodes we've seen the guy. He's presented himself well. And but they could at least they put him in there. They kept his blue. They kept the chest look. They could have changed him completely, made him something completely different, but they didn't. So it's a bit like when they produced Lord of the Rings. Everybody said awesome movies, but some people didn't like them because the interpretation was different to what they thought. So anyway, it is what it is, and it could have been a lot worse. I'll just leave it at that. So with the communication thing, right? So this is when Ahsoka was still on the ship, right? Needs to speak to Sabine because she doesn't know where Sabine is. Does the Luke thing, right? Reaches out to her. Now, a few fans were a bit irked by this because there's an argument as to saying, can a Force-sensitive person contact a normal person and do the Force-sensitive link, or does it have to be another Force-sensitive person as well? And of course, when Leia received the message from Luke and Empire, nobody knew at the time that she was the sister and was also going to be Force-sensitive. Look, to me, I had no problem with this. It kind of worked. She dials into Sabine. Sabine goes, "Oh my God, Ahsoka!" Bang, we're done. Right? I don't know. What did you think about it? Do you have an issue with this at all?
I actually liked it because it's a Force power that they don't really play on so much. So I just thought it was. I was like, oh yeah, the Jedi can do that. And the thing is, I think Sabine is probably Force sensitive, but she's 1% of every other Padawan, and it wasn't like a direct call to her. She just said she had a feeling or an impression. It would be funny if Ahsoka just got a recorded message. The person you're connecting is not Force sensitive.
Hang on. It's like the person, your call is important to us. Press 1 for this option. Yes, it's an emergency. Press 2 if you just need to call them about something else. Yeah, I like that. But you are right. It's interesting to see a power that's been used before, right? And normally they're just inventing powers and they're pulling them out of their ass. And you go, what the hell power is that? At least when you go, all right, this one we have seen. So once again, the Empire Strikes Back has been referenced again in this particular episode. So, but I thought, look, it kind of worked, right? And I like it. Hu Yang is saying, I can't reach her on the phone. And then Ahsoka says, "Don't worry about it. I got it all figured out. You could have just done that to start with, but not a problem." So,
yeah.
Is there a written rule on this one? No, they just invent things as dictated by the story. They need to find these people quickly, and away they go. All right. So Ahsoka knows where Sabine is. It's all good. So we get to our bad guys right now. We've discussed before. Baylan and Shin have been just an excellent pair of baddies. Really interesting, especially him. He's got a lot of depth to him, right? We get to this point here, and all of a sudden, he's telling her, all right, you're on your own now, off you go, right? And he stays behind. And it's not at all clear as to why that's the case. Her reaction is just relatively straightforward. It's almost like they had to cut corners in this sequence. And it's like, there's no tears, there's no emotion. And I thought, well, hang on, maybe she could just ride down, fight the battle, and come back, and he'll still be there. And the thing is here that they're actually departing for good. This one I thought could have been done better. So what do you think?
I thought he would leave her with one last lesson in that she gets super mad or something and maybe even attacks him and he just deflects it really easily. I did think you're right. It was, I don't know how they were, I don't know what emotion they were playing for, but she seems to be bouncing around with. She doesn't even know. He couldn't even explain to her what his goals were. Just there's something really powerful, more power, and all that. So she was going along with that, and then just to be sort of off you go. I'm doing my own thing now. I did think that was a bit rough on her.
Yeah, and I agree with Tracy. It just felt rushed and abrupt, and it just seemed it's like it was an afterthought. They go, "Oh, we need to get rid of the girl. Put her in the battle. Let him go off and do his own thing." I don't know. It just it lacked resonance, and we've gone on their journey throughout this entire series, and they've always been together. Suddenly, she's going to be let go on her own, and it was just like I would have thought, at the very least, shown some emotion. even a tear or two. I don't know, but
Might have been nice if he'd done something more along the lines of, there's a fork in the road. I'm doing this. It's not going to be what you want to do. It's doing my own thing and not going along with Thrawn. Or you can make your choice and have power with the sisters and the witches, which she knows he doesn't like,
Yep.
and the Imperials and Thrawn. You know, the path of fortune and glory, or the path of my own mission. And maybe she weighs it up and makes the decision herself. Just the way it was. I agree with Tracy and Kirsty. It wasn't very well written, I didn't think.
Totally agree. And Chrissy even said the same thing. So if I think that, you think that, Tracy and Chrissy think that, then clearly that was the case. Yeah, a bit unfortunate considering they're such good characters. Anyway, now I saw this. Now I'm probably the only one who picked up on this one. Did you actually think, steady? Or was it just me? It's even got the bloody eye stalks, man. Straight out of Gungans, mate. What the hell's the deal with that? Steady.
Well,
did you think that? I
have really loved, Lucasfilm always recycle stuff, and I don't know if you've ever seen the behind the scenes footage. It's not footage; it's the production design that Doug Chang did for the Gungans. And originally, they did have shells as shields with just their eyes poking out the top for the battles they were in, which wasn't used ultimately. And they've harkened back to that design in this and made them look kind of like Jim Henson characters. So they're not main characters, they're not major, but I think they are a good design. They're not as annoying as the Gungans, that's for sure.
Oh, no, definitely not. This was I thought this was a cute moment. Unbelievably stupid, but cute, right? So Ezra's telling the Noddy to get back inside. They've even kept the Rouse with them, right? The rodent of unusual size, which is the dog. I thought they may have let the dog go, but they've chucked it in the tank and away they go. So I thought, oh well, there you go. But it was at least it was a cute moment. And yes, the rodent of unusual size has still got something to do. Now, once again, I want to prove something to you fans out there. I predicted this last week, and I'm 100% correct. How many Notties got injured, killed, marked, just got sweat stains? 0. Big, fat goose eggs, right?
There was a joke there.
It's a typical Rebels episode where the good guys did not get a scratch. And I thought, and like people are going to say, oh, we don't want to see these little dudes get killed on screen, right? And it's at least in Return of the Jedi, they were prepared to kill one Ewok, at least one on screen. And I thought, without the Noddy getting injured at all, it just weakened the entire thing.
The joke there was Notty 1. But
Noddy 1.
But it would have been. I thought what I thought would have been funny was when Shin comes back and she's walking through. If they hadn't none of them had got killed, and she just pops a thermal detonator through the window of each one of them, blows up everything, kind of thing. But didn't happen.
Yeah. It's like the Riddler and Batman Forever, just going toss, toss, toss. So, and we said last week, because I asked us, how many you reckon to get knocked off? And we said 0, none, because Disney / Lucasfilm will say, no, it's bad for the kids. They don't want to see little turtle guys getting squished, right? Even though it would have enhanced the danger, as we said earlier with the whales, it would have made the scene more frightening, more tense, even if one had just got one between the eyes, it's all this green stuff goes everywhere. Absolutely nasty as, but you need that in sequences like this. But no, they've kept the G rating down. They're all safe. They're all sound. And unfortunately, that is a really good case of the Disneyfication, using a better, trying to think of a better word, where they've kept it. No, it's family friendly. It's got to be family friendly. We cannot have one of these things injured, even if it would have just done wonders for the intensity of the story. So, and I agree with Tracy. I miss Andor and the death toll. Yeah, that's a very good observation, actually. So, he introduced really cute characters, and they're all cooking on gas the whole way through. And that was probably a bit of an unfortunate side effect.
I did think one of the funny things they could have done, again, this is just me, if you'd looked at the Notty, if each one of them had a different coloured bandana around their eyes, and you could have had all the Ninja Turtles.
They start bringing out the nunchuckers and the staffs and stuff. Yeah, so anyway, not to worry. I mean, it was kind of predictable. And that's just like Rebels. If you ever used to watch Rebels, hardly the good guys just never mark on them, regardless of how bad their their circumstances were. You are right. Yeah. Even a porg got barbecued. That's a very good point. Yeah. So there you go. Unbelievable. Oh, please, kids want to see things get killed. Yes, especially when they're cute and cuddly. Absolutely. And it just would have just really ramped up. It would have been, we would have said, oh, that's grouse that they did that. It's nasty, but it's grouse. But when an Ewok died in Return of the Jedi, that was a big moment. And it was because it was a big on-screen experience. The two blow up and one survives, the other one dies. That's intense stuff. It's nasty, but sometimes you need it. But we know who's paying the bills for these movies and TV shows, so not to worry. Anyway, so Sabine wants to give Ezra the saber. He doesn't want to take it. I thought it was very him that he wouldn't, but of course he also knew that it would be safer with her if she had it and could actually fight and use it to survive. And of course that is clearly the case. And I thought, yeah, that's an interesting sort of moment. And there was no green mist from the stormtroopers. So this sort of does say these guys at least were humans. And even though, as always, stormtroopers are useless, which was another Rebels trait, it's frustrating. To be fair, these guys have been out of practice for 10 years, probably not as strong and as nasty as they should be. So that's what I'm going with.
Did you think it was a bit bad as well? They go withdraw and they just left Shin and ran off. I was like, that wasn't. I don't know. Maybe.
I mean, we know Thrawn's got all these TIE fighters in his TIE fighter base. He could have just sent those out and just blown the shit out of everything, but that wasn't to be. Well, right. Not as nasty as what happened to the stormtroopers by the Ewoks. That was in Forces of Destiny, I think it was, the animated series. They actually cooking a stormtrooper in the suit on the stick, on the, what do you call it, the rotisserie. It's like, mate, basting your own juices. What can I say?
Well, that nearly happened to Han.
You just know there's Nadia getting a participation. That's grouse. Oh, dear. Absolutely fantastic. Very, very cool. And you are right, Christy. Yes, the surviving Ewok, it was a bit hard work there. It was a really intense moment in the movie, especially when you're 14 years old, as I was when I was watching it. So that was that, right? All good. Now, Baylan and Ahsoka. Now, Ahsoka jumps out of the ship, and I thought, well, she's clearly going to jump into the main fight, but she ends up here instead. I mean, how did she even know where Baylan was? He was just sitting on the hill all by himself. I thought that was kind of weird. It was obviously the last-minute confrontation, but by the same token, I thought, hang on, her thing is to save the others, save Sabine, save Ezra, save the Noddy. I don't know why she ended up here, but anyway. And I did like the fact that despite all of her skills and all of her training, even what Anakin taught her, she still couldn't beat Baylan. And I thought, at least there's that, because I thought, now we know for a fact that the actor in real life has passed away. We thought, okay, is this where Baylan chops it, or they do a re-edit and they get him? Does he die off in this? But he doesn't. So I thought, what do you make of it all?
Not as strong a fight as I thought it was going to be. There were a couple of times where I thought, she's held back because all she had to do was flip the lightsaber the other way and he's gone. So I didn't see it as much as she couldn't defeat him, but she just was stronger than him and proved it, kind of thing.
No, I like the fact that he could hold his own, and she had the two sabers this time, and she's going for it. And as he said, you're not going to kill him. And of course, Huyang comes past, does the distraction, and then Ahsoka runs off this time, jumps on her horse, and off she goes. Which means that poor Baylan is finally on his own, right? And he turns to the other direction and walks off. Where is he going is anybody's guess. I have no idea what that's about, what he's planning to do. Is he going to find a temple that just happens to be there that people have forgotten about? We're never going to see him ever again. I don't know what. I was going
to say, wouldn't it be an anticlimax if we just never saw him again, and he's passed away? So that's the end of that character.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. It's kind of weird. I mean, maybe. I mean, you do get this in some sort of stories where the person does become the hermit thing. It's like they're wandering around the wastelands looking for something, but they don't know what they're looking for, and I don't know. It's kind of just a weird way of sort of finishing him off. So. Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting, but bizarre. So it's almost like, we need the character out of the show. Just get him to walk off. Done. There you go. Problem solved.
Could he possibly die next episode fighting Thrawn and the witches because the witches do something to his apprentice or something like that?
I don't know. But I agree with Tracy. He was such a strong character, and he was one of the best characters in the show, and now he's wussed out and gone. Hopefully, it gets resolved in some way, shape, or form. I don't know what it would be. It wouldn't be funny if he found the world between worlds, which I think is what he's looking for. But anyway, so all this is going on, right? The big battle's going on. Huyang is just flying around with all the ships behind him, just bang, 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 bang. You're thinking, mate, hasn't anybody killed him blown the ship up yet? What the hell's taking him so long? Unbelievable. So I thought that was a little bit bizarre. Huyang's kicked off Ahsoka. He says, I'll just distract the ships. You reckon they're sitting there going, come on, man. One of them's got to land. Oh, Jesus. Oh, well, never mind.
Yeah.
From Thrawn's point of view, it's like a computer game, right? And you would have thought he would have CCTV, actual proper cameras there watching what's going on, but no. And I like the fact that he says our side, right? I like that. Our side is short one mercenary. And of course, he doesn't know what Baylan is. But I like it, our side. right? I thought that's an interesting sort of term to phrase to use, isn't it? It's like outside.
Yeah.
And he does show that, yes, his losses, he's considered them acceptable because they're obviously wasting time, which is what our heroes need. And he actually relishes seeing the Jedi in action again, which I thought was kind of cool. So that was an interesting
Yeah,
sort of line.
that's one of the reasons I do like him as a villain, because like Balin, he's not black and white. He isn't just I'm evil for the sake of being evil. He's actually got some character and some nuance that they don't usually do so well in the Star Wars Disney Plus stuff. So appreciate how he's written, you know.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. We've only got 3 pictures left, kids. We're almost at the end. We do get reminded of what is being stored, the stasis tubes. As to what's in them is anybody's guess, whether they are witches, special stormtroopers, blah, blah, blah. Who knows? I guess at some point we'll find out, which is cool. And of course, Shin is now all alone. So I thought that's interesting. I did like this sequence. And of course, she just runs off as well. You'd think she would just go back to where Balin was. So, but anyway, whatever. But I think she's screwed. I think she's staying on this planet forever. So her fate is not going to be a good one. That's what I personally think. And of course, you get the heroes together. All right. A happy reunion. But of course, Sabine doesn't know that Ahsoka knows how Sabine got there in the first place and the fact that she did it willingly. And of course, Ezra's got no freaking idea what's going on. And this is where I'm thinking, how will they get back to the galaxy far, far away? Right. Because they're currently in the Geffer, right? The galaxy even further away. And I'm willing to bet that the Purgles will come back, right? And their return trip. And then they'll hitch on one and return back to the galaxy far, far away. That's my guess. What do you think?
Is that the fellowship of the hyperspace ring?
Well, is the one ring to rule them all. So Thrawn will go back as per normal on his ship. He'll jump in the Chimera. I think it's Chimera. Last week we were trying to get the pronunciation. I think it's Chimera in retrospect.
Chimera.
Jumps on the one hyperspace ring to rule them all. These guys say, well, we kind of need something a way out of here. The Purgles will come back after being blasted at the start of this episode. And they go, yep, we'll just grab one of those. And Ezra can talk to animals. So problem solved. Everybody's happy. So there you go.
Maybe they all ride back on the Rouses because we don't know that they can hyperspace jump as well.
Oh, mate, go the Rouse. The rodent of unusual size that has ludicrous speed attached to it. Tracy said thinks Shin will leave with Ahsoka and the others. Well, if she she's just bolted. You reckon she's going to have a bit of a rethink and then do a Reva, as it were, from Obi-Wan Kenobi and do a complete about face and, I want to be a good guy now. Come back with the tears and all the rest of it. That would be pretty pitiful if that was the case. Now, before I go any further, Christy, I need your crimson yawns for this episode. Remember, the more yawns, the worse it was. The less yawns, the better it was. Hey, what do you reckon, dude?
Not as good as last week, but I still thought it was a pretty strong episode. As we've mentioned before, the Rebels characters probably slow it down. So when it hits Sabine and Ezra on the planet, I'm like, well, I do want to see other stuff and not this, but I guess it's one of the main story points, so they've got to service them at least. I would probably give it about a 7 out of 10 this week.
Very, very cool. Now, Christy, after last week, finally getting into the positives with 6 yawns, which is 4 yawns, which is 6 out of 10, done the complete reversal, the full 8 yawns. That's 2 out of 10. I think that was like the first or second episode copped the score like that. Oh, if you don't mind, umpire, she actually started to fall asleep while watching it. Oh, geez, how's that do?
What I have to ask there is, how do you manage to get through us? We don't have special effects. We don't have like lightsabers, and you don't fall asleep during us.
And we actually run longer than the actual show we're talking about, which is kind of nuts.
We do.
Very good. We make the story. There you go. You'll love how crazy is that? Look, I can see the flaws in it. I can see the faults and the bits that just I'm scratching my head going, and they're like the Noddy not getting killed in the whale, surviving, whatever. But I was I was actually engrossed. I was like, where are we going with this? I'm intrigued. I want to see what happens. And I found it quite entertaining and enjoyable. But I can understand why, when I think about it and analyze it, and why some people thought it didn't cut the mustard for them. But there was enough for me to say, you know what? I want to see it. It's not entirely cookie cutter quality. There is some unique things occurring. And I actually really liked it. So, hang on. Christy likes our dulcet tones. Aaron speaks smart and wise, and I just speak damn fast. So there you go. Very, very cool.
The good news the Noddy were in Star Wars before. In A New Hope, there was Admiral Noddy. He got choked.
You're an idiot. Absolutely. Anyway, so the important thing is that was the second last episode. The last episode is only a couple of days away. Before we finish up for the tonight, I know we've had to play through this. We're running overtime, yada yada yada. Next week's will probably be even longer. Don't forget, if you haven't done so already, be sure to check out the. Oh, it hasn't popped up. Oh, I've lost my thing. Oh, here we go. If you haven't done so already, check out the Sci-Fi Zone socials and stuff, regarding YouTube and Instagram and all that sort of stuff. Very exciting. There's a lot of things going on besides this show. And, of course, Aaron's Collectibles, mate. How exciting is the shop at the moment?
Well, I won't say anything much because we're out of time, but forget about Admiral. I've forgotten, mind blank, coming back. Chad's back in the shop from tomorrow after his holiday. So forget about Thrawn being back. Chad is back in the shop. So anyone who's been missing him, come in for a chat. Chad would appreciate it.
You're supposed to be encouraging people to go, not stay away. So there you go. Very, very cool. Anyway, that's the end of us for this episode. We have run over time. We've got a lot to plow through. It's just nuts. Next week will probably even longer because we like to really the last episode usually has everything chucked into it. But thank you all for sitting through it. A lot of people are still here after an hour and 10 minutes, which is very, very groovy. We're going to buzz off now. We're going to party hard, leave you to it. Enjoy the last episode of Ahsoka in 2 days' time. Yay, team. Any final words before we shove off tonight, Mr. Aaron?
And rip it off the card.
Rip it off the card. Very, very cool. Go out and kill a noddy. That's what you need to do. It's like, geez, make the show a bit more adult. Come on, man. All right, we'll leave you to a party hard, and we'll see you next week. Okay, see you guys. Take care.
Good night, everyone.